everybody, and welcome in. And today we welcome in David French, who's paying for this block of time here on WBRT Radio and LBR TV. David, you are running for one of the two Nelson County openings that are being elected to the Salt River Electric Board of Directors. And so for those people out there listening, viewing, first of all, let's hear a little bit about you, for those that don't know you.
Well, I'm 65 years old. I lived in Nelson County for the last 35 years. I'm kind of a transplant, I guess, but I consider this my hometown because I've spent the last 35 out here. I raised my children out here, raised my family out here, and my entire family moved out here the same time I did. We all just moved. We loved Bardstown. We loved what we saw, and the people were overly friendly, so we just moved out here, and all of us just relocated 35 years ago, and it's probably the best thing we ever did.
Yeah. And your family's all pretty much close to you, is that what?
They are. Yeah. We all live side by side. It's the same block on the street. Yeah. My wife's name is Reba. We used to own a couple businesses in Bardstown, and I have lived next door to my parents for the last 35 years, which has been a blessing.
Yes. To
do that. And my dad passed away a couple years ago, but my mother still lives next door, and we take care of her, and it's just a great opportunity to stay close to her.
Now, you have a work history that relates directly to Salt River Electric. Tell us about your work history and how it relates.
I do. I hired in at Louisville Gas and Electric right out of college when I was in 1978. I went to work in the Mill Creek Generating Station, shoveling coal. And I worked my way up through the ranks. I spent 18 years at Mill Creek Generating Station, and eventually bid out, went to other departments, and worked in multiple departments for 2 or 3 years. And then I ended up in a group called Economic Development and Major Accounts. We handled customers that spent millions of dollars a month on electricity. It was not uncommon for one customer to spend $9 million a month. So those customers didn't want to call one day and talk to Dave, next day talk to Steve, and next day talk to somebody else. They wanted to call their account manager, and their account manager fixed their problem. Whether it was their bill was too high, their bill was too low, or they thought their meter was wrong. So I had to quickly learn how to navigate my way around through the company in multiple departments, and in a nice way nudge people to do the proper things to take care of those customers. In turn, that kind of taught me lessons on how every customer should be treated.
Yeah. Whether you're a homeowner or in the Salt River service area, or you're a manufacturer, of which the Salt River Electric provides the juice, the electricity for a lot of our, many, if not most of our industries here in Nelson County, and certainly in Bullitt County, another one of the areas.
Yep. My dad actually retired from LG&E. He worked there 42 years. I worked there over 40. My son's been there 16. We transported back and forth, just because that's where our jobs were. But some of the things that we did years ago aren't practical anymore. So I had to be on the cutting edge of what was going on with the company and the customers, and I was the point of contact. So when you're the point of contact, you need to know about the rates, the tariffs, the laws, the policy. Every way you can explain the bill to somebody, because customers, when they call you up, they don't want to hear, let me check on it, let me look it up. They want to know, what does this mean on my bill? What does that mean on my bill? What's the fuel adjustment clause on my bill? Different things like that. I've had calls like that recently about the fuel adjustment clause. People don't understand what it is. So I kind of had to be an expert on that to some degree, just to be able to explain it, because I explained it so many times.
The point of contact, there will be two representatives to be elected this time for Nelson County for Salt River. So you would be one of the two point of contacts. Of course, the staff is what most people would look up, but still, I'm sure you would, when elected, would encourage people, if you have a question, you are there to answer their question.
Yep, I'm very accessible.
community is important. As you said, family and community are important. Tell us a bit about your community involvement here.
Well, I've coached basketball and baseball for all my kids. We had 5 children, and every one of them that come up through Cox's Creek Elementary and Bloomfield and the schools that they went to, I've coached the basketball teams and the baseball teams. So I got to know a lot of people around Bardstown that way. And I've run into kids in Walmart that are 6'6" now. And the last time I saw them, they were 3'6",
Yeah.
and they look at me and still call me coach.
Yeah.
And that's a compliment for me, if they still respect me enough to call me coach whenever they're grown and don't have to look up to me anymore, but they do. So I'm kind of proud of that, that they feel that way about me.
There's one way to get involved in the community and be coaching or teaching, and I know that my wife, when one of her former students walks up to her in wherever and calls her by her name,
Makes you feel good.
Makes her feel real good.
It really does.
Yeah, I need to keep some of those people in my back pocket or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Are you affiliated with any other boards or organizations that
I am.
our listeners would need to know about?
I sit on the Up Foundation Board, which is a branch of Nelson County Schools. And we acquire money through things like childhood literacy, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We're part of that. We spend a lot of money on that. We're very heavily involved with the, they call it the ATC. It used to be called Vocational School when I was growing up in Area Technology Center.
Yeah.
And we're very involved with that, and we're working with them to acquire money, acquire instructors. They recently received a $10 million grant, which was just unbelievable that we have that option to do that. And now we're looking at starting other things of training, like diesel mechanics, heavy equipment operators. One of the things that's near and dear to me is obviously linemen.
Right.
I want to see them, and I've been talking to the utilities, I want to see them start a lineman school, because I've had several kids come to me and we had to run them through a different school out of state or Jefferson Community College or somewhere. But college is not made for every kid. And there's a lot of kids out there. Lineman job is a life-changing job.
Yep.
It's good money, it's secure, people have to have electricity. So not only do we want to push the lineman portion of it, we want to push the line women portion of it, because there's a lot of girls out there that college is not necessarily for them. And a job like that, that's a job that I would love to see more women in, because it's a technical job, but if you're not scared of heights, it's a great job.
Yep.
I'm a little scared of heights, so I've kind of stared away from the bucket truck a little bit.
Yeah. But you talk about point of contact. The linemen are, especially during the severe weathers events that we have had here and across our Commonwealth, those are the point of contact with the transmission system.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
And do a remarkable job. And speaking of that, emergency preparedness, preventive maintenance, and what about those and standard operating procedures of a utility company, as big as Salt River is, and certainly as big as the one that you just retired from?
Well, I sit on a lot of committees in my previous job about disaster preparedness, emergency preparedness. I worked in the command center a lot, where we would bring in, we have agreements with other utilities, whether they be in Texas or Tennessee or South Carolina or parts of Kentucky. Whoever gets hit the hardest and has the most manpower available, we would bring them in, work with those folks, but there had to be a command center that coordinated all of it. I'd like to see a little bit of that going on out here. I know the last storm we had, where we had 8,000 customers out, or roughly 8,000 customers out, I think they did a great job for the resources they had, but I think I would want to work to try to get more resources, to get maybe a mobile command center or a bigger command center, and get more resources in the command center. And by doing that, I would like to see us utilize some of our previous employees. One of the things, I've been talking to one of the old directors, And I'm kind of using this guy as my mentor because he was a director for years and years, great guy. He knows the ins and outs of Salt River and everybody else. This guy is just a gem. But I've been talking to him quite a bit, and he seems to think that one of the things that would help more than anything is to educate the homeowners and work as a board member to help lower rates. Everybody kind of sticks their ears up a little bit when you talk about lowering rates. And that's possible. It'd take a lot of work, but it might be a better option to educate homeowners on how to lower their consumption.
Yeah. Indeed. You may not lower the kilowatt hour rate, but you can, let's say, lower the consumption, and
Yeah.
that is a good product and a good idea. And I like the idea of I think in one aspect there's some entity called SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. I don't know if there's any that are anywhere around here, but I've heard that in the past and known of them in the past.
Does it make a lot of sense to let a guy with 35 or 40 years service walk out the door and take that experience with him? Most companies won't hire his replacement until he's gone because they don't want to pay two salaries at the same time. But you're letting a guy out the door that's got 35 or 40 or some cases 50 years of experience, and you're letting him walk out the door and take it with him.
Yep.
I don't understand that logic. I think you need to utilize that and milk this guy to get everything you can out of him.
With his permission.
Yeah, you put it in him.
Yeah.
You taught him that. You put it in him. Why not get it back and let him teach somebody else that helps them hit the ground running?
Safety is a big thing, not only for the homeowners, but certainly for those guys, the linemen, and hopefully line women. What do you've been around it? You know that there is tragedy on occasion in this field of work. What's your thoughts on that?
I've seen a lot of lineman accidents over the years, and that's probably one of the nightmares you never get rid of, is watching something like that. But safety is priority one. I've heard other candidates talk about it, and I totally agree with them. There's nothing more important than safety. If you don't go home at the end of the day, we failed as a company, or we failed as an organization. The idea is send nobody home every day, but you got to give them resources. Don't set people up to fail, you set people up to succeed. So if you set people up to succeed, you're giving them the resources they need to go home every day.
Give me an idea of what a resource? Training?
Training,
Equipment?
the right equipment.
Yeah.
One of the things too is overworking them.
Yeah.
You know, during storms in particular, it's not unusual to get 3 hours sleep at night because you're working 16-hour days. They force you to take 8 hours off. So you're getting, by the time you get home, you eat some dinner, or you get in a hotel if you're from out of town, you eat some dinner, you take a shower, you get in bed, you got to get up the next morning, get ready, be there at 6 o'clock and ready to go again. You've managed to get 3 or 4 hours sleep. Not many people can go on 3 or 4 hours sleep and keep a good straight head on their shoulders. It's tough to do.
And there's typically no second chance.
No.
When there's a mistake made on the
No.
line. Yeah.
No, but you gotta give them some rest. And by doing that, you need to bring more people in, which is hard to do.
Goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Yeah.
So there's some issues, but I think I have a perspective to bring to the board where things like that can be accomplished because of my experience in the past, the things that I did before, that I can figure out ways to be safe and efficient at the same time.
Let's remind everybody, our host here today is Mr. David French, who is a candidate for the Salt River Electric Board, one of the two positions that are being elected right now, as a matter of fact. The ballots should be in people's homes or shortly. They should be there. The ballots, David, are very important that they're filled out correctly.
They are.
Yeah.
However it is addressed on the label that comes to you, on the envelope that comes to you, if it says John R. Smith, it has to be signed John R. Smith. And it has to be dated. And you can check one or two candidates. It says choose two, but what that means is there's 2 open seats, so it's giving you the opportunity to choose 2 if you like, but you can choose just one if you like. And in my case, if I'm running for election, I would rather see you choose just one. I don't want to buy radio time for one of my competitors.
Yeah.
So I would rather just pay for it myself and get one vote.
And but you select 3, they'll throw your ballot out.
They'll throw it away.
Sign it right and date it.
They'll throw it away if it's
And-
not correct.
Okay.
And you've got until the 21st
Okay.
to have it postmarked. On the 23rd of May, they'll have a vote counting where they invite all the candidates in while they count the votes, and you'll know that night who the winners are, who's going to fill those 2 seats.
And we'll go back before we're done here today and retrace all those details. We have a good electric company, but you say that there are issues and things that you might need addressed.
Well, Salt River does a great job. I'm not going to knock Salt River at all, or the workers. They do a great job. I'm just saying there's always room for improvement. It may be through education. It may be through safety. It may be through employee recognition. There's lots of things that change the workplace. Morale is key. There's things that you can do to show appreciation to the employees. They may already be doing it. Quite honestly, I don't know because I'm not an employee. They may be recognizing safety incentives or safety awards by having pizza parties for the crews back at the shop and stuff like that. They may already be doing that, but if they're not, they should be. They should be doing stuff to recognize safety and no lost time accidents and things of that nature.
You say that giving employees some more allowance for tools and gear in the field. Now, explain to me what you mean by the word allowance.
Well, it's not actually a raise on their check, so don't be mistaken that it would be a raise. Every year, the way I understand it, and I've talked to a few linemen out in the field, I went around and kind of just felt them out to see how they feel. Because they're the ones, in my mind, next to the customer and with the customer, they're the most important people in this organization because they're out there fixing the poles and the wires and the transformers and keeping the meter spinning, keeping the lights on, the meter spinning. So I interviewed a few of those guys and go out and ask them, what do you need? What's going on? What don't you like? What do you like about the company? And all of them seemed to be relatively happy. But one of the things that kept popping up was, we're given $600 a year allowance to buy boots, personal equipment, things of that nature, tools, the personal tools that they may want. In my opinion, that needs to be much higher. Because they could spend over half of that on a pair of boots easily.
Yeah.
Because these are not just your run-of-the-mill, go to Tractor Supply and buy a pair of boots. These are special boots. And so that kind of stuff, like I said earlier, it's giving your employees resources to be successful. And that, to me, that's kind of part of it.
Yeah. Safe and successful.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about this, that you know of one gentleman who had a long career at Salt River, but the idea of maybe utilizing former employees as resources or even as contract when we have some of these weather events, which is usually the bugaboo for electrical utilities.
The last storm, I saw some former employees who've recently retired that was out in the field working this last storm because that was a catastrophe for the customers to have that many people out at one time. So yeah, I did see some, but I think it should be commonplace to call those former employees in, and if nothing else, to relieve the pressure of the workload. And I know there's liabilities with bringing guys in, especially when they get a little age on them, of their physical ability or even their mental capability in some cases. There's a little liability there, but there's a lot of guys out there that's still alive and well and kicking in pretty good shape that just chose to maybe not work full time. Maybe there's some guys out there that could work part time and be an asset to the company.
Their knowledge, as you're saying that, their knowledge of where a problem could occur and And, because of the way the structure of electrical distribution is, the knowledge of how it works and where it goes and where it doesn't go would be very important. And people that have spent 30 years probably have more knowledge about that than somebody could gain in 10 years.
Part of that preparedness in the field when you have big storms is, how many times have you drove down the road and seen a utility pole leaning to the point where you thought, how's that thing staying up?
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Those kind of issues need to be addressed before the storms. Mm-hmm. They need to put new guide wires on, or the pole needs to be replaced. It's tough to do when you're in a town that's getting a lot of new business. Like Nelson County's getting a lot of new business, a lot of bourbon industry business. Nelson County's growing. So the crews that are out there now, I'm sure they're working a lot, hooking up new services and running some new lines. But there's a lot of old line out there. I think I heard one of the other candidates talk about some of the old line out there. And there is a lot of old line out there that the wires is antiquated. The wire needs to be replaced. The pole's too short. The pole's been in there for 50 years or longer. And those things need to be, that would be a great job for a former employee.
Right.
To ride around and say, okay, on this circuit, in which there's hundreds of circuits in this county, on this circuit we need to replace those 3 poles, we need to replace the whole circuit, or we need to replace the wiring, the conductors. And there's lots of stuff out there that people like that could do that would cause us less stress and less damage in the case of emergencies and bad storms, ice storms, or whatever.
They might know exactly where to go first. They'll say,
they've seen it.
They've seen it.
They may be cussing me right now, thinking, I don't want to go back to work. What's this guy talking about?
Yeah. It's not forced.
Yeah, and it's not full time.
Yeah, but it's an idea, like I say, to utilize the knowledge and the skills of people that may not want to do it 40 hours a week, but certainly are there. And I guarantee those people also have the community at heart too, and that's what it is a lot of times.
They live here too. They love this place. Yeah.
Let's check our time here. Yeah. David French is with us here today, discussing his running for board of directors member of the Salt River Electric Nelson County board, 2 from Nelson County, and I believe other counties elect some too. But Nelson County voters vote for just 2.
Correct.
Again, tell us a little bit about your background, and then reminding everybody about the voting process that's underway.
I retired 5 years ago after 40 plus years at a large utility company, gas and electric. And after I retired, I actually have done consulting work for the last 5 years. Customers that I had previous to my retirement called me after I retired and said, things are a little more difficult without you. Would you be willing to come back as a consultant just to manage our electric portion of our job, whether it be an Amazon building or an apartment complex or a subdivision or whatever, manufacturing, housing, whatever it is. I would be the liaison between that company and the company I used to work for, which is the utility company in Louisville. And because they don't want to be, these people out there building and developing, they don't want to be in the utility business. They want it to be seamless. They want it to be friendly. They want it to be open. So they were spending a lot of their time calling the utility company, when can I get my drawings? When can I get my plans? When can I get my road crossings? All these things that they were asking for, and the utility companies, during times of booming businesses and the economy's good, utility company can't hire enough people, can't keep enough people in there working. Of course, then there's the secular thing where it slows down. And then when it gets slow, you got too many people. So it's a project to manage how many employees you keep out there in the field, how many you keep in the office, how many you keep on the books. So you never know, unless you're good enough at fortune telling, to see when the highs and lows of the building and manufacturing and that industry, developing industry, is coming, which it's hard to do. So sometimes you have to outsource. Sometimes you can get some outsourcing done, but I like to say that I've actually been in this business over 45 years, because after I retired 5 years ago, I'm still doing consulting work. which I enjoy doing because I like being the guy that puts people together to solve problems. Because I've always kind of been that guy that, at work, that I'm the one that people come to and they say, I'm tired of fighting this battle. I need some help. And then I get, unfortunately, sometimes by default, you get to be the hero. And sometimes you get to be the scapegoat. You just never know. So it gives you something to work for. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy solving problems. I have a analytical mind thought, and I like to solve problems.
David French, running for the Nelson County, one of the two positions, the Nelson County Salt River Electric Board. The ballots are, if not at your home, will be there in a very short time.
Today or tomorrow.
And David, again, remind them that they vote for you, and they don't have to vote for anybody else, or it's up to them.
It says on the ballot you can choose two, but that basically means there's 2 seats open, that you can vote for 1 or 2 people, actually. If you choose to vote for 2, you can. If you choose to vote for 1, you can. You just have to sign it correctly, the same name that's on the address and the name that come in, it has to be signed that way. And then it has to be dated also. And it has
If I'm right, there's an envelope, you put your ballot in, then that envelope goes in another envelope with the postage paid.
It is.
So it's
Yep. So it's easier than voting for a politician.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to get in the car and go to a polling station somewhere and vote.
right.
So it's just a matter of just filling it out, putting an envelope, put it back in the mailbox.
And it's very important because there's a lot of growth, and there's also, we seem to be not the only ones that are getting a lot of weather situations that are impacting our electrical infrastructure and other stuff too. So, David, thank you very much, and I hope our viewers, listeners have learned more about you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.